Good evening. This is John Young with the Disc Jockey News and Disc Jockey News TV, and it is Wednesday night, which means it's lighting night. And tonight we've got a special guest. We've got Nick from Chauvet. Good evening, Nick.
What's up, DJ and TV?
Hey, good to have you.
Hi, John.
Hello.
Hey.
So we didn't get it. We missed one of our shows here, and you were a busy man doing shows all over the country.
Yeah, we were out in LA last week doing a Guitar Center show for managers, and on the last day they actually opened up to the public for some really good specials. So it was a good time. We got to integrate with some people that are really into the music industry and learn some stuff, and it was a really good show. Very quick though. It was over and done before I even realized it. So
yeah, I suppose, especially when you consider. Like a show like when you guys are doing NAMM. Now, when you do a big show like a NAMM, what's the setup? I mean, how long is that when you guys are on site pretty much?
For a show like NAMM, it can take us anywhere between 3 to 4 days ahead of time to set it up. It really just depends on how many people we have there. DJ Expo takes around 3 days, 4 days. So
yeah,
they're equally pretty big booths, but with NAMM we have a lot more people.
Yeah.
So it's generally a little quicker. But yeah, it's a good, but the DJ Expo, we have multiple things going on. Generally, we have all the seminars. We have the big DJ booth. We have a retail location in the back, and then we have a huge stage as well. So it's a pretty big undertaking. But it's a lot of fun. Those shows are great. End user shows are our favorite because we get to actually talk with you guys.
Yeah, exactly. You get to hang out and see the confusion on their face when you're saying this is the easiest light to use ever, and you're like,
yeah, exactly.
Oh, good stuff.
So, but then then we get to show them how it works, and we're all good.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's a valuable thing because there's been times where and I play with a lot of stuff, and there's times I come in there and it's like, how does it? And you're like, oh yeah, I feel stupid.
Yeah. Well, we don't mean to.
It's just that sometimes it's so simple, and it's like, gosh, why didn't I think to try that? But yeah, so let's jump into it. We had a question talking about wireless, how to set up wireless lights, and in going through that, I think one of the big things with that is kind of that confusion of all those different things that are on that on those different control panels, what have you, depending upon which light it is. So.
Sure.
Can you walk us through a little bit about what those menu things are and kind of what they do? And
so, I mean, I'll start out with just the basic wireless stuff that Chauvet sells, which is our D-Fi series. It's a 2.4 gigahertz connection between all the different transceivers, receivers, transmitters, everything. We have a board that has it installed, the OB4 D-Fi. We also have the small transmitter. It's a small little box that you can use as just a single line in and out to any of the wireless receivers. And you can also buy the pack that comes with both the transceiver and the receiver all in one little kit. My personal favorite, though, is the 2.4 gigahertz, the original one that's kind of started it all. That's the one that is a transceiver, can be used for both in and out. I don't actually have one here because they are selling so well, so they're hard to hang on to. But what I did bring today was one of our lovely Freedom Power Quad 5s.
Yeah.
This actually has that very same transceiver built inside it. I'm going to turn this on here. It's kind of bright, so let me just go to one of the menus that's not going to have it bright in my face. Okay, cool. So the whole system itself is actually controlled right here from this little display.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about the transceivers and the D-Fi system is that it sends your entire universe of DMX over your wireless signal. So if you think about it, there's a lot of information that you can cram onto that DMX universe. So you can control moving heads, effect lights, PARs, these wireless uplights, all these different things. I mean, you can control dimmer racks. I even know people that control controllers with their DMX. Like for instance, our media system that we use for our pro products for I think it's our KS Media Master actually has DMX inputs, so you can trigger video loops to pop up at the same time as your lighting.
Wow,
it's a really cool thing to do. That's more in the pro range. Although there are some DJs that are getting into that. So I'm going to just briefly walk you through the menu here that we have. So forgive me, I'm going to get kind of close up and personal here. So this menu actually, it can be kind of complicated. I'm going to try and actually grab the phone because I can't really get that close.
Yep.
So this menu actually can be very complicated. However, It's actually pretty easy to learn. It's kind of like once you've learned how to ride a bike, it's really no big deal. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's something that once you figure it out, you can remember it over and over again. I'm sorry, I'm really bad with moving my moving my phone around.
There we go.
Okay, so the core thing with the wireless with these freedoms, I'm going to skip over a few of the other menu functions for right now, and I'm just going to focus on this.
Okay.
You got to think about everything in this menu is done in acronyms.
Okay.
So this stands for Select, Transmit, Receive. This is actually a menu in the main menu. You can see we're up at the top menu, the system menu. So you see how I hit the menu button and it goes to SYS.
Yep, system. Okay.
If you go up and down, this gives you all the different main menus that are there.
Okay.
System is the kind of the beginning menu. You have your IR control. You also have your slave mode. You have your this is a advanced compatibility mode. This is like for if you have your old Freedom Pars and now you have your new Freedom Pars, this will control the old ones just as well.
Okay.
And then of course your just auto mode here. It's AFC auto control mode. Okay. So we're going to go into the system menu here, SYS, and we're going to go one layer down in the menu. And this starts out DAD, this SDAD. So this is actually the DMX address. This is where you go and you set your DMX address. We're not going to do that right now. We're going to go down to wireless. This is DCH. This is where you set your personality of the fixture. So whether it's got programs or if it's just in standard RGB mode, RGBA, mode. The one we're looking for is this one. This is Select, Transmit, Receive,
okay, or
S-TR. So go ahead and hit Enter, and this will take you into all the different wireless possibilities inside this Freedom, and there are a lot. Because this one's also capable of doing wireless master-slave, which is really cool, especially if you use like IR remotes. You can actually link these up together and control them all with one fixture. All the lights in the room will change and match that fixture. It's really nice when setting up because you don't have to do a whole lot of programming and pressing. So you can do it with the IR remote, or you can actually do it just with the display right on the unit, just as we're doing right now. So right now, the thing is actually set to DMX Receive Auto Sync. We also have Transmit Channel, Transmit Auto Sync, DMX Transmit Channel, GMX Auto Sync Transmit, so GMX Transmit Auto Sync, Receive Channel, you see DMX, the D, yep, R, CH. So the CH and the AS, those are the difference between the auto sync and the channel selection.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan of channel selection for this reason. Is if you're in a venue and there's other wireless activity in there, which happens a lot. There's wireless networks, microwaves. The phone you're carrying in your pocket, the one I'm using right now, is all on a wireless channel and it's broadcasting back and forth and exchanging information, which clogs that channel up.
Sure.
So what you can do is you can get any number of wireless apps that are in your phone to analyze the space that you're in and figure out which channels are active and which ones aren't. There's a lot of apps out there that will actually do that and tell you which one to be on. So then you figure out what channel that is, and you set this one to it. So that way you know that you're on a nice and open channel.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you really need to auto-sync them, you can. But another really big main benefit between auto-syncing and channel selection is if you do lose wireless reception for just a second, the auto-sync doesn't really follow as well. The channel selection will just hop right back on there because it remembers exactly what channel it's at. Whereas the auto-sync is constantly running around looking for good frequencies to be on, and if it loses one of its little buddies,
right,
it won't work as well. Now, autosync is a much easier thing to do. It's a much easier setup for most people that don't want to deal with all of the checking channels and whatever. But it's limited in the respect that you may find a channel that doesn't work in the venue that works perfectly fine at your warehouse.
Interesting.
This is kind of one of those. This is one of those areas that's really difficult for people to understand, but it's a wireless problem that you have with even your wireless routers, your internet routers, and everything.
How many channels are there available then?
There's 16.
Okay.
On your standard wireless router, you'll generally see only 11 or 12.
That's what I was thinking.
But this one has 16. So we have a little bit wider bandwidth, and it allows us to use some channels if they're all used up. But you never know. There might be other channels on that 16, 17 that may be in the way. And you normally want to put this sucker a good couple of channels away. So if you've got something on 2 and 4 and 11, you want to put it somewhere around 7. Just put it right in the middle, far away from all the other ones.
Gotcha.
It'll make it a lot easier. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to set that channel right now. So right now we're set in DMX Receive. I'm going to actually make this a transmitter. So we're going to go down and DMX channel. Transmit, see the T right there, hit enter, and you see it'll give you the number, DMX transmit channel. Right now we're on 6. That's good. So leave it at 6, and I'll hit menu. We'll go back to this transmit receive. So the big difference you're going to notice is inside these units, you're actually going to have the option to transmit it wire. Let me actually edit out here. Sorry, I'm reading the display backwards. I apologize.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So inside for your DMX transmit channel, you also have the option for this guy right here, the receive channel. So you can set the receive channel to whatever you'd like. It can be, but it should match your transmitters, obviously. Otherwise, you're not going to really get anywhere. And then you can also go and set this guy here. So this is just transmit channel.
Okay.
Now this is if you're running wireless master slave. If you're trying to master slave these units together, there's no DMX. It's just a master slave. So that's why there's no D there. It's specifically set up for that master slave. So you can do transmit channel. You can transmit autosync. And then there's also receive. Let me get to it here real quick. Oh, I'm sorry. Receive is actually in the slave mode. Let me go back to that and show you where that is, because it's actually hit the menu. So you see, you go back to
System.
menu SYS, and then you go to your slave mode. You hit enter, and then you see it'll say receive set, and then it'll give you what channel you want to receive on. See, it'll give you 8, and then whatever, and we can set it to 6. Hit enter, and then it'll go. With the freedoms, they actually have a nice little LED in there that will actually show you where or if it's connecting or transmitting. So like for instance, we're going to go into the system menu, select transmit receive, enter, and then we're going to go to DMX transmit, enter, and you see now it's on 6.
Yep.
7, we'll just leave it at 7, you hit enter, and we're set. So now you can go back to here, and we'll put it on just an auto mode just because we can. Whoops, of course I would get blinded when I did that. But you'll see the actual unit itself will be blinking fairly rapidly if it was receiving DMX, which it's not.
Yep.
Right now it's not receiving any DMX, so it won't do that. So if we go back to... Sorry, I normally very quick with this menu, but I'm trying to slow it down a little bit so you guys can see what I'm actually doing. Okay, there you go. And I've got it on transmit.
Yep.
Transmit channel enter, and then we can go back to your system menu. There we go. And of course, auto program is going to blind me then. And it's actually transmitting right now in the auto mode, but the it really needs DMX to show it. And again, one of the really cool things about this guy is that on the back of the unit itself, there are 2 DMX channels. So you have your actual DMX input, which is where you can send DMX into and then out from the wireless antenna.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can actually receive wireless from the antenna and then go back out the DMX. So you put these in your totems with your, moving heads on the top, and you can control any of that stuff.
Nice.
So it's really nice and easy, and it's a very, very quick and easy system. Granted, the menu is a little bit cumbersome. There's a lot of stuff to learn, but once you learn all the steps, it's really, really easy.
Yeah, yeah.
So just like most things.
Yeah, exactly. Once the guy gets over that initial shock of all the different things and
yeah, so it is an easy process once you get to learn it.
Yeah.
So, but that's the Freedom Par Quad 5, our Freedom Par RGBA, and our Freedom Strip Mini RGBA, and the Freedom Strip Mini Quad 5 is also the same function. It all has it built in.
Nice.
So, and it will work with all the DeFi products.
Very neat. Very neat. A little crash course on setting up your wireless network there with that.
Yeah, and our customer service guys are really, really, really good with this. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with them to train them to make sure that they're very, very, very solid on this procedure. If anyone out there has problems, questions, anything about Freedom, don't hesitate, give them a holler, and they are more than happy to help you with this stuff. They are experts at this, so they're really, really, really good at what they do.
Yeah, I bet they are, because I'm sure that there's quite a few of us who can be a little intimidated by getting into those menus.
And if it's sometimes all it takes is just a phone call to say, hey, I need a little help with this, and they're more than happy to walk you through.
Yeah.
So
Great.
No worries.
Great.
So I have something I brought, John, though, that I wanted to show you. It's a new product.
You get some new stuff. That's what I was hoping for tonight.
Yeah.
I wanted to see some new stuff because we all like the toys.
Yeah. The Freedom Quad 5 has been out for a little bit.
Yep.
But we have a brand new toy here today. So I brought pardon me, this is heavy. I brought a Hurricane Haze 3D.
Oh.
Right there. Mm-hmm. Yep. So this is our brand new ultra silent hazer. And actually, I'm gonna mess with the camera again here, John. Hold on a second. You have to forgive my floor is a little bit dirty. So this guy right here has an ultra silent fan in it. Same kind of digital display as in back. You can control it from the actual digital display, or you can control it from the included wireless remote, which actually comes in down here when we ship it.
Oh, nice.
So it stores it in there.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, and I was one of those people a long time ago when I before I joined Chauvet, I bought the Hurricane Haze 2D, and I didn't know that thing was in there. And I, of course, called my dealer and said, "Hey man, you stimped me on this remote. Where is it?" And of course he's like, "It's in the base underneath the tank." And man, I felt stupid, but so I'm just trying to help, so you don't feel stupid. But anyway, so it has a nice little storage compartment. And you can also control on DMX. It's the same 2 channels of control like you have in there. Now, I'm gonna unplug my mic for. Actually, you know what? I'll just go closer to it. So I'm gonna turn on the fan really quickly so you guys can hear how quiet it is, because I don't really think you're gonna hear it.
Oh, we can hear just a little bit.
A little tiny bit. But you can probably hear my voice a lot better, right?
Oh,
and that mic isn't by my face anymore. It's down by the the hazer.
Yeah, you can barely hear it.
Yep, so I can turn on full blast, and you'll hear it spin up, but...
Yep, we can hear that it's increased its RPM.
Mm-hmm. But it's still very quiet.
Yeah.
This thing is great for church applications. Really, really great for what's it called, for areas when we need to be quiet and also have a pretty decent amount of output.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of output, John, do you remember how foggy the booth was at NAMM?
Yes, it was. It was to the point it was tough to see across at times.
Yeah, at times. So the really cool thing about that is we actually used our Hurricane Haze 2D to 3D to cover the entire booth at NAMM. Pardon me, I'm trying to get my phone back in its little spot here. And when we did that, we didn't really realize the amount of output that it would have, and it was pretty substantial.
Yeah,
we've used it in our testing area, and a lot of that we tested in a couple pre-venues, but we never really actually had it running out in a big open area like the big show at NAMM, which was a 60 by 30 booth. And just one of those things was filling that whole space.
That was
great.
Just one.
There was one on the DJ side and one on the pro side, but the pro side one was just leaking out the back. It never even actually made it in the booth. It just went right out. So it was just one of them.
Wow.
But the one unit was actually running on our performance haze fluid, which is meant for our pro product called the Am Haze.
Okay.
And that actually substantially increases the output. You can run on just the standard haze juice that we sell. I think it's called HFG.
Okay.
Which also, another one of those acronyms, haze fluid gallon. That's where that comes from, HFG. But that one is the preferred haze fluid, and I can tell you, John, we make sure, I'm going to just remind everybody, you have to use Chauvet fluids. You see that? Yep. The reason for that is the chemical makeup of our fog juice is held to very, very high standards. We have to make sure that the quality control of it is perfect, because if it's not, it'll jam up the fogger.
Oh, sure.
Or the hazer, either or. And as you know, hazers, they work off of a combination of heat and pressure. So they have to not only have the pump configured properly and pressing the right amount of pressure against the heating element, but they also have to have the proper vaporization temperature of that fluid inside the heater.
Oh.
So if it's not right, it won't work. Or if there's a chunk or a little gel or something like that in the line as it goes down, you're gonna just ruin it and I can't tell you how many people I know that have issues with that on or with their hazers or foggers, because they use a cheaper fluid that doesn't generally adhere to the same standards that ours do, and it just doesn't last.
Interesting.
And I mean, you know, honestly, in a pinch, I'll be honest, I've used somebody else's haze fluid or fog fluid because I had to. I had a gig. I had to do it. I wasn't going to lose a reputation thing because of a little bit of fog juice. But immediately after, I cleaned it just to be sure. You know, and we have something called fog cleaner. It's FCQ, fog cleaner quart. There's no one of those. Yeah, I know. But so that quart, I normally use about a half to a full bottle of that when I clean it out. When I do my hazer, my own personal hazer, I'll run it every 6 months or every 40 gigs. That's just a good basis to make sure that it's good. Although after using a cheap fog juice, man, I will run it right after just to be sure that there's nothing stuck in there, because your fogger or your hazer is an investment. And that's an expensive investment to be shipping back and forth.
Yeah.
You know. But anyway, so that's my little Chauvet PSA, if you will, just because we do have a lot of issues with people not using the right fog juice or haze juice, and that can be a very, very expensive choice to make.
Sure.
So I'm going to actually fire this bad boy up here for a quick second, because the next thing I'd like to show, which is my personal favorite thing to do with hazers, it rhymes with it, actually, it's lasers. So I'm going to crank my fan up here real quick, and I'm going to turn on my haze juice, so it might get a little bit foggy in here, so bear with me for a second.
That's okay. Now you mentioned the two different types of haze juice you guys have. What is is it like one is half the output of the other one? I mean, it's
not directly half, but it is a substantial increase. It's a much larger increase because the actual density of the fluid itself is different. So there's a lot more. It takes more pressure to push it into the actual what's called the heater. Okay. So you get a lot more parts per million when it comes out of the actual end of the hazer. Because the main difference between a hazer and a fogger is the fan that's accelerating it out there. There's a few other differences, and if you want to get really technical about it, we could be talking for hours about it. But in reality, most of it is just a fogger shoots a burst of fog out, and that's it. A hazer lets a little bit of fog out into the air and has a fan that pushes it out. And it's you can actually make a hazer when you don't have one by putting a giant fan in front of a fogger, and it'll spread it out. And it gives you that nice even fog like you're starting to see in the room here. Yep. It gives you a nice level, even amount of fog out in the air. It may not be the effect you're looking for. If you want a fogger, you want to burst a fog up in the air like the geyser, then a fogger is the way to go.
For sure.
It just depends on your application.
Sure.
So
now with both of with both of those juices, the hazer will use the same amount, or they'll use them at the same speed.
The hazer generally uses fluid a little bit quicker, actually. It's going to get dark here for just a second. Hold on. The hazer will generally use the same amount of fluid as a fogger, but it also depends on how much you're using it. If you have the hazer set to a very low level, the haze juice will last you for a long time. I have a hazer in my I have a hazer in my living room, John. I'm coming out, all right? I have a hazer in my living room that actually I've had the same tank in there for probably 2 months, because I only use it maybe every couple of days.
Sure.
And I just use it to fill a very small room. Mm-hmm. If you're using like NAM, if you're using using it in a really big room, you're going to burn a lot more haze juice up. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of it's the way it goes.
Sure.
It's like if you want to drive your car fast and go a longer range, you're going to burn gas more quickly.
Yeah, more
simple as that. So
cool.
But anyway, so now that my room is adequately fogged out, I'm going to fire up my next little product I wanted to show you. So I brought our brand new Scorpion Dual.
Oh.
The Scorpion Dual is the dual-headed. Now, it's actually not dual-headed. I'll explain exactly what's happening in there. But it's a laser that uses 3 mirrors, so 1 mirror like this, and then 2 mirrors like this, to actually make shapes in the air. and that's why we call it the duals, because it looks like it has two beams coming out and they're dueling.
Okay.
There is a single laser diode in there, and I'm going to turn it on here above my head. It uses a single laser diode, but it splits it through a mirror, so you can actually have what's it called? So you can actually have it cover a much wider area or create some really cool effects.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see it over my shoulder there. Very, very bright. It's got our fat beam technology, so that the beam itself is very big. And I'll actually show you that here really quickly. So the laser itself is there, and then the point where it's striking is on the wall right there.
Yeah.
Now, where it actually hits the wall right here is about a quarter. It's about the thickness of a quarter. It's really, really, really thick. And the nice thing about that is you don't have to have as much fog in the air to actually have it show up in the air. And you can do some pretty cool little effects and stuff like that. And it can, as you can see, it can do chases and whatnot.
Yep.
Get out of the way here. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
And this guy is very cheap. I know that we don't normally do prices on here, but it's going for about $150 or so. Not very expensive. It's a great little laser. Now, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, you have to spend at least $1,000 on a laser to get a good laser. You have to spend at least $5,000 on a laser to get a good laser. Those are generally RGB. So they have full color mixing. So like they have a red, a green, a blue laser built in on the inside of them. They actually combine the colors together to make the specific colors you want. Whereas the $1,000 ones, they may not have quite as good a color blending, but they're close. And anyway, those lasers require a variance from the FDA. You have to have it. It's an operator's license for that laser.
Okay.
So if you're running a show, hang on, I'm gonna turn my fogger down my hazer down for a second. It's kind of getting a little thick in here. If you don't have that license, you could possibly be inspected and be subject to some pretty hefty fines. Chauvet doesn't do variance lasers. We just don't. It's too much of a hassle for our customers, and we don't want to deal with it.
Sure.
We want to make something that you can just buy and use right out of the box.
Yep.
So that's why you'll see in our boxes it says variance-free laser. This laser is a variance-free laser. It's not bright enough to cause crazy amounts of eye damage. It's not bright. It still could it still can hurt you. Don't look directly into it. Like just go all frog-eyed on it and look right in. It's bad. But it can definitely. It still doesn't need any federal paperwork through the FDA.
Gotcha.
So and almost all of our lasers are set that way. You can't. We just don't want to get into that area. There's too much to it. So a lot of the people that say, oh, you need this laser to get this effect and blah blah blah. The reality is that you can get some pretty decent effects for a pretty good amount of money. If you don't want to spend $500, $1,000 on a laser, we have something called the Scorpion Burst, which is an amazingly bright laser that's a green and blue. So it's just two colors. So you can actually make three colors with it because it's green and blue and cyan where they combine. And that one's really cool because it's a great spread field effect. And it's very bright and it's only I think they're like $299 or $329 or something like that. They're very, very inexpensive. And so it's just a lot of stuff that you don't have to get into, and you can save yourself some money and still get a really cool effect. Yeah. Like this laser right behind me here, you can do some really fun effects right over the head of a band or something, and still get a really, really cool show going without having to do a whole lot. So let me see if I can find. There we go. There's some pretty cool stuff you can do with it though, and the more you play with it, I'm using a really basic board right now, so it's not exactly cooperating with me very well.
You're doing some DMX control with it right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to respond to me here on it, but then my DMX board is a very old DMX board, so I should have probably brought home a new Obey or something. I just had one just lying around the house. So let me see here. Anyway, so there's a lot of potential for it. This one you can draw shapes, you can do like lines and dots. This one also has something that's really cool that's built into it that'll actually slow down the scan rate. So the scan rate is what it does when it builds little dots around. It basically, what a laser is just pointing a stream of light out, and it's going through some optics that scan very, very quickly and make shapes.
Sure.
Laser scanners are generally rated in kilopulses per second. So that's how many pulses they can do and spin, and how fast they can be, just for the quick definition. And they, some of our nicer lasers, like the Scorpion Burst GB, has like a 15 kpps scanner in there, so it's 15,000 times a second it can spin, which means it can create some cool shapes and whatnot. This one is a lot slower, but you're paying for a much cheaper laser and not getting the higher, you're spending a bunch of money, but you're getting a great product and it's a great look anyway in aerial. This is a great thing for aerial effects. That's its purpose. So but if you get the nicer kpps scanners, there we go. You see, there's a slow scan rate. So I slowed it way down, and it's just doing this like little walk kind of thing. It's really cool. But so anyway, the higher end lasers, the $1,000, the $5,000, the $10,000, or even $100,000 lasers, you're looking at 50 kpps or 30 kpps.
Okay.
But that allows you to draw more complicated, more intricate shapes. But I mean, again, you're talking thousands of dollars.
Yeah, precisely. There's a trade-off for it.
Yeah, exactly. So I've always loved this type of laser. I have 4 of them, actually, not this type, but I have the older version of it that was like way more expensive, and they're just great because they can give you that same laser sky effect where you get that cool like liquidy kind of thing going on in the beams, and you get the great like nice pointy beams that can give this really cool like layered effect above an artist. It's just awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now you're doing DMX with it, but what other control capabilities do those have?
So this one gives you have auto program, sound mode, and then you also have the specific like patterns that are generated by it. This one has just a ton of built-in patterns that are triggerable by the DMX here. But and I can't remember exactly how many patterns it has, but it's quite a few. And you can control the XY movement of it. You can control so X and Y.
Yep.
You control zooming. You can zoom it in and out. You can also control the like the specific shape that you're drawing. You can control how fast it draws that shape. So if it's drawing a triangle, instead of it drawing a triangle so fast it looks like one piece of a triangle, it's actually drawing it slow, so it just draws this kind of a cool square. And it looks really neat to see the beams kind of walk around. That's kind of what they're doing right now. They're actually kind of like drawing a square, and actually you can see it on the wall here when let me flip it around here real quick, hold on. So you can see how it's drawing a square there in the corner, but it's going really slow. If we were to speed it up, I'm struggling with this old controller, I apologize. Yeah, so it goes a little bit faster there. And there we go. So it goes a little bit quicker, and you can see it kind of jump in there, and it'll draw all kinds of different shapes and stuff like that. It's really cool. But you get a lot of control over it, like a lot. Granted, these don't have to be used on DMX. They can be used on auto from the display, or sound from the display. So they're very configurable without having the knowledge of DMX. You can just use some basic controlling from the display.
Are they master slave also?
Oh yeah, you bet.
Nice. So yeah, a person could set it to sound active or auto, and one on each side of your system, and have a kind of a cool ceiling light show.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very neat. Very, very neat.
Yeah, I'm just playing around with it now. Sorry.
When you were mentioning the RGB, you were talking about RGB lasers. Now, I've seen some where they're talking about the strength of the laser beam, I'm guessing. And it seems that the numbers are different. Why would the numbers be different with the different laser beams?
So different colors respond better in light. So like to your eye. Like for instance, that's why we chose green for this laser. Is that a green is a very easy color for your eyes to pick up. In fact, it picks up really like a lot more than any other laser.
Okay. So
for instance, this one right here is a 50 milliwatt diode. Even really, really big lasers, 150 to 500 milliwatts in a green is a very, very bright laser. There's no reason to have anything really that much brighter. I mean, some guys will say, "Oh, well, I'm shooting across an entire amphitheater." Yeah, okay, well, that's fine. Then go with your 1 watters or your 2 watters. That's fine. But the in a green LED laser diode, your eye just responds better to the green.
Okay.
So you don't need as powerful of a beam to show it off. So like for example, if you're running one of the bigger lasers or even this one with a 50 milliwatt diode in it, you're gonna you only need a 50 milliwatt to make this look good in comparison to something that would be like a 100 milliwatt blue or a 200 milliwatt green red. It's just because there's so much more. It takes so much more energy to excite those photons at that frequency for your eyes to see it. And I'm running out of fog again. Hold on. Okay.
So the red is if you put them in order, then
the red is a little bit is a little bit more difficult to see than the green, only a little bit, and then the blue is the hardest. But the blue also has another factor that determines how it works, because blue is very, very close to UV, and UV, the farther you go down the UV spectrum, the less you can see because your eyes just don't respond to UV as well. So when you get like a blue diode that's like a 405 or a 410 nanometer, it'll look like a black light, and you barely even see it in the air, and it's hard for your eyes to see it. So for that to be seen, you need to have a lot more brightness to excite those photons so you'd see it. So a lot of lasers you don't see UV diodes in very often. In fact, we used to sell a couple that was I think it was called the Scorpion RVM, and that has a red and a magenta, or excuse me, a red and a violet laser in it. So it's a red and a UV, and you combine those together, you get magenta. And the magenta looks great because you mix it with the pink or with the red, and it makes pink. It looks really, really good. But the purple by itself wasn't as easy to see in a well lit room. Whereas this green, and you saw it at Mobile Beat, it shows up very well.
Oh, yeah.
It's very easy to see.
Exactly.
So it's it just depends on what your application is going to be. Let's see.
Now with lasers, granted these are smaller lasers, but when does as the wattage goes up, when do you get into the point where you have to worry about cooling? Because I've heard people talk about lasers.
Yeah. Actually, even lasers this small have to be cooled. We've got ones that are in the 50 milliwatt to 20 milliwatt range that, like in our min lasers, they have to have a fan in them to actually cool them down because the diodes can possibly overheat.
Oh wow.
The other thing that you're really susceptible to with lasers is like with the red diodes. Red diodes are really susceptible to temperature changes. That's why, like up in Minnesota, where I used to live up in Wisconsin, we had problems with the rapid cooling. You would go from your gig inside where it's all hot and there's tons of people in there, and it's just it's very, very warm and moist room, and you'd pick your gear up and you'd walk it out to the truck or walk it out to the trailer or the car or whatever, and you'd get some condensation on it or whatever. But that rapid temperature change is really bad for like red laser diodes and some greens. The blues aren't too bad; they can survive it pretty well, but the reds are really the worst when it comes to that stuff. But they need to be cooled. The diode itself generates a lot of heat, or it can, and it will. You need to evacuate that temperature somewhere. And also, if you try and operate them in temperatures well above 100 degrees, you're really going to be driving those diodes hard, and it may really hurt them. So you have to make sure they have an adequate cooling system in there. And our min lasers have a cooling system, and I can show you. And this guy, he has a pretty sizable fan in there to keep everything cool. But it's not just the laser; it's also the power supply that you're trying to keep cool, because that power supply gets warm having to change voltages and stuff like that. Because it you put in 120, you get out 12, 5, and sometimes 10. But this one's just 12 and 5.
Okay.
So.
Interesting. Now, the difference you were mentioning, the color, the idea that the red is harder to see, or harder than green. Does that work with LEDs too? Does any lights?
A little bit. The greens generally are easier to see, but most manufacturers overdrive or change the drive current on their LEDs to adjust for that. So you never really even see it, because normally before it even gets to the consumer, they've already changed it so that it looks good. You know what I mean? And you can look at we actually, Chauvet lists all of our drive currents of our LEDs on the web. We actually do a total power of the LED, of all the LEDs combined on the website. We like to just kind of put our dirty laundry out there. We let you know exactly what our LEDs are driven at, just because we have nothing to hide. So the those currents, you can actually see how much they're actually being drawn at, and generally the reds and the blues are driven harder than the greens are, just in general. So that's kind of the same type of thing. Lasers are a lot more apparent because they have to throw a lot more light with a much smaller space here. So you can really see the difference when it comes to that, because you're not just creating light from a source and seeing it. You're creating light out in space where there's has to fire radiation out and then have it create light at that spot.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So like a laser, you can see the aperture. Right? The aperture is the area right where the laser comes out of. Very, very bright. I mean, you can see it just over my shoulder. Yeah. It's very, very bright. Mm-hmm. But the area up here may not be so bright. So that's what you really have to create that brightness in. Whereas LEDs, it's coming right out of the source there, so it's not too bad.
Interesting.
So it's minute, but it's there.
Yeah. Cool. Let's take a look at that laser if we can a little bit closer, and then I think then we'll wrap things up for the night. I think we've got a lot of great information here for the folks.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna get a little closer look here at this guy. I have it sitting on my couch here.
Oh yeah.
So you can see how there's the two different beams in there.
Yeah.
And then you have the large beam up on top, and then the two smaller beams down below.
Can you go to the side? Can you go to the side of it?
Yeah, of course.
Just because I can't see the bottom and it's a top and a bottom beam.
Yeah, here, I tell you what. Let's go like this. So, yeah, it's gonna be a little bright. I tell you what. Let's just I'm gonna just unplug it and we'll show it to you over here.
But we definitely could see the left and the right.
Yeah.
Right beam.
All right. So, this is the Scorpion Dual right here. So you see how it's got the two mirrors. Mm-hmm. Right here.
Sure.
And then in the upper mirror, right there.
Oh, okay. Yep, there we go.
So actually, the laser comes in this way, hits this mirror, which this mirror is a 50% mirror, so it only holds back 50% of the laser diode.
Okay.
And then laser brightness, excuse me, and then that goes through to this one, right across the way. So it's actually splitting the beam right there, and then going out in two beams to this top mirror, and then it's putting it out in the into the air.
Nice.
So, and then here's that fan I was talking about. Nice little cooling fan right there. And then, of course, our lovely Chauvet DJ logos and fun stuff like that.
How heavy is that?
Honestly, that's a great question. I feel like it's only a couple of pounds. It's really not very heavy. I'd say it's probably maybe 4 or 5 pounds at the most.
Sure.
It's very, very light. Hey. And we redesigned the housing for this guy so that it's a much smaller than most of our other Scorpion lasers. We took the actual size here and here down, so it's a much smaller, which is really nice, just for packing wise. So. And
can it be mounted both above and below a bar?
Oh yeah, you bet. It can be mounted below, and actually at Mobile Beat we had it mounted above, so we had it mounted like this. Okay. Which that's just all about your programming, how you want to program it. Mm-hmm. That'll just affect that. That's pretty much it. But it does have IR control as well.
Oh, nice.
So you can control it with an IR remote. It's pretty awesome in case you really want to do that. And of course, you can master slave it with that IR remote. You don't have to worry about doing a whole lot.
Oh wow, that'd be very convenient.
Power linking. So, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
This is one of my more favorite laser products that came out because I kind of got to see a retro version of an old product that I absolutely loved, and people have been really responding well to it.
Oh,
it's been very well received. So
yeah, good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. Well, if you like the show and you have questions for Nick about anything with lighting, what we need you to do is go and put a comment in the right below the video here in the description area. Ask a question, comment. Let us know if you like the whole idea of looking at lights every couple of weeks. Because I think, Nick, you've got some new. You guys probably have some new stuff coming out again pretty soon.
Oh yeah, you bet. And we've got a couple other new products that we can cover here in the next couple of weeks too. We've got the Core Bar 4s. We've got we have a new UV light that just came out a few weeks ago.
That's right, I saw that.
We can probably get one of those in here and check it out. It's a pretty impressive light. In fact, you know what? Maybe we should do a series just on UV. Because we have a couple of new UV lights, and I know we've talked about the UV when it comes to the Hex series lights, and so maybe we could kind of focus on the lights that are specifically oriented towards UV.
Yeah, a night for UV would be awesome.
Okay, so we'll definitely have. I mean, we have two different types, and we can talk about the differences between the two and why you use one over the other. So,
Yeah.
If you guys have any questions about that, feel free to hit us up. Otherwise, any other topics, holds barred. Let's chat about them.
Sounds great. Well, Nick, thank you very much for being on with us tonight.
Thank you, John.
And we will see you guys next time. Again, any questions, comments in the description below. Well, right below the description, below in the comments area here on our YouTube video. This is John Young with the Disc Jockey News and Nick from Chauvet DJ. Good night.
See you guys.